Shalom, shalom. I don't know if y'all can hear me, if I'm breaking up or what. You know, I say that a lot, but I really don't be knowing because my phone be tripping sometimes. I don't know if y'all can hear me or not, but what I want to hit up a little bit is just, reality versus doctrine. Because we have a lot of people, right, that is stuck in these doctrines, and once you hear them talk, this is my page dealing with the Bible. This is my biblical page. Everything on this page is about Bible stuff. I don't care what color you are, your belief system, or etc. On this page, I'm here for truth and truth only. I don't look at nobody's skin color, no nationality. I don't know if you're a Gentile, or a Jew, or Israel. I'm just here for truth. So, that being said, that's the point of this page. It's truth. I got an artist page, and I got a page from where I used to live in Tennessee. But this right here is my biblical page. This is where my heart lies at. At the end of the day, I come back here. So, that being said, now I hope I'm not breaking up. That being said, people have a problem with, pretty much everybody should know now that what we teach is, the Bible has been fulfilled, All praise to the Most High also, as well as Christ the King, and hopefully, my mentor, Mr. William Bell, my brother Demetrius Bell, Marty, Alvin, Daryl, Kenneth, David, and etc. is doing well. But anyway, we have a belief system that has been created, I believe, in the Western mind, started with the church fathers and been passed down, that the Bible is more of a fantasy novel than it's actually talking about real events. Okay, you have, at this period of time, it's documented that, specific individuals did some remarkable things, some what we are called today supernatural, and that's cool and everything, but that wasn't the point of the Bible. The point of the Bible itself wasn't the supernatural things that they were doing. It just came with it. The supernatural things that they were doing was for a sign to show that the God was over his people and he was watching and he had some influence. That's what the supernatural stuff was for. But the point of the Bible, it tells you, was for us to have a circumcised heart and for us to be the Most High's children and he be our Father. That's the point of the Bible. The point of the Bible is not him wishing you up and taking you to a land far, far away where you're going to have honey shooting up out the ground and it's going to rain milk and you're never going to be able to hurt yourself and you'll have everlasting life, this and that. No, that wasn't the point of the Bible. You see, these people had a culture. You're reading old style literature, okay? They were not sitting down in an English classroom in the Western world finding out how or what would be the best way to write down words in order for the Western people to understand what I mean. That's not what they were doing, okay? They did not have a Western upbringing. They was not thinking Western ways. They had an Eastern upbringing. And if you can even go through things that predates Israel, like Canaan and etc. You can even go to the Samaritans. All of these things that have older writings in it. Egypt with Thot and or Tot or whatever they said, the Emerald Tablets. You can read some of that literature and see how much imagery is in the literature. You see, the literature is full of imagery. So, even though you're reading the Bible in English words, it derived from a state of mind that was using imagery to formulate an ideal and to tell us or to convey the ideal to people that would have understood some of the idioms that they were using. This is why they had an oral tradition and they had a written tradition. When the written tradition got confusing, that's when they would come with the oral tradition and actually tell them what it means. So once again, the oral tradition told what it meant, and then they had the written tradition for them to actually read along. So they was able to have both sides of the story when they was reading. Today, we don't have the oral tradition. We only have the written word. So in order to understand what they were going through, you're going to have to go to other books and let them explain themselves dealing with the Bible. And you can also go to other secular sources and see what they were saying to formulate or extrapolate the information to form a better ideal of what they're bringing out. So what I'm trying to say is, you can't open the Bible and think that you're going to automatically know what's being said. See, people get stuck with some of the metaphors and the idioms. Even Paul, when Paul was bringing out the thing dealing with Sarah and Hagar, he let it be known that, hey, this story right here that y'all are reading, it can be placed as an allegory for a more deeper meaning than what you're reading, because none of y'all actually lived during this time. It was a story passed down to them in the first century. So Paul is letting it be known, hey, this story that y'all are reading, even though it's based on factual information, it is an allegory dealing with the covenants. Once again, Paul let it be known that even though this information is based on factual evidence, the deeper meaning, the reason why we're talking about this, the reason why we're displaying this, the reason why it's written down is for a broader or a deeper meaning. This is dealing with the covenants. So you can take the literal aspect of it, but you're missing the reason why it was written down. And that's the problem happening with most of the scripture. People go into Isaiah reading that a child is going to be able to pick up a serpent, an asp, and the lamb is going to sit down with the wolf. And it's going to be no more cries and tears, and the Most High is going to be the light. Not actually understanding what all of this stuff is saying. Once you're think about the imagery. Once you're thinking about a wolf and a lamb laying down together, why a wolf and a lamb? Well, it's because one of them is a predator and the other one is a prey. When these animals come in contact, it's always death. It's always fighting. Always. So, it's going to be no more fighting, no more death, no more predator and prey. Who can we relate this to? We can relate this to the other nations and the Israelites, because when the other nations always dealt with the Israelites, it always came down to war. They will always be cool in the beginning, and it always would end up with war. So this is what he was talking about, no more war. And then you have the no more sun. Well, actually, once you go into the book of Genesis, it actually goes through this. In the beginning, you know, light was created after darkness. The world was dark, and the Most High said, let there be light, and light shine, right? So, in Genesis, you actually have the Most High. His light was shining, and it lit up the whole earth. You did not have a sun. You did not have a moon. Those was created later. Once again, those was created later. So, in Genesis, you had darkness and light before you had the sun and the moon. You go to Revelation, there's no more sun and moon because the Most High is the light. So what did he do? He took it right back to creation. A new creation. This all this is talking about. A new creation. New heavens, new earth, new covenant, new way of doing things, new people. It's all about new. You're supposed to be thinking about the new. Once you're reading this, it's supposed to take you back to Genesis, when the new world was created in the beginning. Now we have another new world coming because the old heaven and the old earth has passed away. So in this new heaven and the new earth, just like in the beginning, before the sun and the moon was created, the Most High was the light of the world. Everything relied on the Most High. That's all it's doing, is taking you back to the Most High. And then as you read later on in the scriptures, it actually tells you that the sun and the moon and the stars were created for signs. The sun always, the moon, sun, stars, they always help them keep up with the calendar. It always helped them bring forth omens and all of these things. The celestial bodies were used for signs. You would not need any more signs in the new heaven and the new earth because everything would have been fulfilled. You don't need no more signs. You don't need to keep up with no more dates. You don't have to worry about feasts. You don't have to worry about this omen or that omen, or what this star system means aligned with that star system. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff, because in the new heavens and the new earth, it is a place of fulfillment. This is what's going on, and people are missing the understanding because they want everything to fit within their doctrine. You see, the problem ain't that all things have been fulfilled. You know, that's not the problem. The problem is, what does it mean when all things are fulfilled? Because people have a vision in their mind what all things fulfilled, what it should look like and what it should be, and how it should be glorious. And it's just like them old Disney movies. You remember when Snow White went outside and she was singing, and the birds came up sitting on her shoulders and they was singing, and the flowers was all pretty, beautiful and pretty, and they was blossom, and the animals came up to her, and it was like just like a utopia. That's how people vision what the Most High was supposed to be doing when he fulfilled everything. They wasn't understanding that the Most High had no way to really tabernacle with mankind. He gave us a shadow with the ancient Israelites. That was a shadow. You guys are going to be my priest, and through you all, the whole world will be blessed. It was just a shadow of how things were supposed to be, but they kept missing the mark also. So, Adam, in the beginning, when he sinned, there was no atonement for his sin. He didn't have no blood sacrifice that would cover his sin. And he got booted out the garden before he could get the tree of life. Now, if you want to take this story as something literal, I think you need to reevaluate your ideology of Hebraic myth. Because just like we have myths, they had myths. So, I think you need to reevaluate some of the myth. Like I said, they myth based off of evidence that they saw was factual, and they topped it with more of a story-like setting or a story-like feeling. So all of their myths and all of their story was based off of factual evidence or beliefs. But if you want to think that Adam really came and he really ate from a tree, and we found out later that that tree is Christ, so how could it really be talking about a literal tree anyway? But anyway, the point was, mankind or Adam, they did not have a sufficient sacrifice for the sin, so they got taken away from the tree of life. Thank you. And them being taken away from the tree of life, what that meant was that the Father could not give them life. They could not be in the presence of the Father. He could not tabernacle with them. They could not do the duty that they was called to do, which was to have dominion over the earth under the guidance of the Most High. It was impossible because he was done away with mankind because of their sin, and there was not a proper atonement. That's why he used one of his own, one of his powers, one of his glorious ones, somebody who had real power, and they came down and made the atonement for him, opening the door for the Most High to be able to tabernacle with mankind. What Christ did is the reason why you can say a prayer today and it get answered. What Christ did is the reason why you can deny him and not get destroyed. All praises to the Most High. Thank you. What Christ did was, even though before you found out that you was an Israelite and you was eating pork and you was eating shrimp and you wasn't doing none of the laws of Moses, you still wasn't worried about a nation coming in destroying you. You wasn't worried about a nation coming to your house and taking you captive over into a whole nother country and all of that stuff. All praises to the Most High, because the sacrifice Christ stopped all of that. So that's why all the people that, we're under the law of Moses, how? When you just found out that you was Israel, how long? So you was eating pork and stuff for how long? And you wasn't destroyed? Notice, he never said ignorance took you away from wrath. Ignorance never took you away from curses, never at all. So you still was going to be cursed, ignorant or not. And all praises to Christ for doing away with that old covenant that had the death and the curses and all this stuff, bringing in a new covenant, allowing you to not be destroyed, allowing you to have grace, because a lot of people are using it and not even know that they're using it. Every day that you wake up, you have been given a little bit more grace, especially my people that deny Christ, that try to down talk Christianity, that goes against Christ and the Father and all that stuff. Thank you. You have a great night. See you tomorrow. But for all the people that's enjoying going against the Father and not being destroyed, y'all are the product of Christ's sacrifice. Y'all are the product of Christ's sacrifice. Okay? So, also, when Christ resurrected, he defeated death. In the book of Revelation, you have death being destroyed and cast into the lake of fire. Christ defeated death when he resurrected. And when he went into the heavens, he went and sat straight on his throne, which was on the right hand of the power, or the Father. So, Christ defeated death 2,000 years ago, and people are thinking that he was talking about physical, literal death. How could he be talking about physical or literal death when John 3:16, let me quote it, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth on him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Now, did all the disciples die? Yes. Did the first century Christians die? Yes. Didn't they believe on Christ? Yes. So it couldn't have been physical death that Christ was doing away with, because everybody that believed on him died. It wasn't physical death. The death that he was talking about was the separation from the Father, because before Christ did his sacrifice, iniquity was always remembered. The Father always had to hide his face from mankind because the iniquity was never forgotten. And then if you actually go into the book of Revelation, it tells you Babylon came into remembrance of the Father. He remembered their sins. Is it saying that, oh, okay, he forgot them? No, it's not saying that he forgot them. It's saying that that grace period that they had was gone. That grace period was gone away, so it was time for them to be destroyed, which was Jerusalem. But in this new covenant, all praises to the Most High, you don't have an end of your grace period until you die. Okay? Until you die. Every day, you get the opportunity to wake up, and if you want to with your life, and make the same mistakes every single day, if you want to. Now, is it some judgment to that? Yes, in real time, but not the judgment that they was getting in the Bible days. So, thank you, Christ, for your sacrifice. Thank you for allowing these people in 2019 in America to say that you did not exist and the New Testament is fake and whatever other stuff they make up in their minds, because you have given them the option to do that. You give them the option every single day until they close their eyes and go and see you face to face when the option is over with. And the thing that I don't get, there's plenty of people that have near-death experiences, right? It's plenty of people. Some of these people were atheists and was in the Nation of Islam. Some of these people were Christians, and etc. So these people give you stories, right? They actually sit up there and they tell you how they died. They went in front of Christ themselves. They went in front of Christ or some angels, and they played their life for them, starting with their baptism or the things that they felt was good, and then they showed them all of the wicked things. So you got all of these people, man, thousands of thousands. So I mean, it's you if you want to believe that everybody's lying, but I'm pretty sure us in 2019, we done seen some spiritual things at least once or twice in your life. I know everybody done seen something that they can't explain. I know everybody have. And if you believe the Bible, you know that there's a spiritual world out there. But my point is, these people are going, they're dying. Some of them has been pronounced dead. It's on medical file. It's on medical file. These people were dead 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 hours. But these people have these, come back with these testimonies, how they seen the Christ. He didn't ask them about no law of Moses. He didn't ask them about no dietary this or that. He didn't tell them about no feast days. He showed them whether they was righteous or wicked, whether they love, whether they forgive. He was showing them all of the righteous things that Christians actually say. This is what he shows them, and he lets them know. All the people, of course, they're near-death experiences, so they came back. But he gives them options, and a lot of people want to stay. And he just do that to show them, well, it's not your time yet, but I'll leave a place open for you. But the point is, these people are actually seeing Christ. These people are dying and actually seeing this magnificent being. They can't explain him. They say he's so beautiful, they can't even explain him. And they said that the love shines like the sun rays, and you can feel it. I mean, you can listen to some of these people's testimony. They said that the colors are way different than they is on earth. They say that the colors here are dull compared to the colors over there, and this is what the Bible lines up with. Everything from the visible came from the invisible. But they tell about this marvelous place and all of these tall angelic beings that look like pure light, and all these people, and they get to sit down and talk to the Christ himself, and he tells them how much he loved them, and they can feel how much that he loves them. And you have all of this real life experience that's put on wax in 2019, and then you have people on earth saying it's all fake. No, it's fake. Christ made it up. The Romans made them up, and all this other stuff. And that's the problem. Thank you, Christ, for your sacrifice to allow all these people to deny you, even though all of this evidence is out there. You got biblical evidence, you got historical evidence, and you got people who didn't even died and came back. You got all evidence all around. People still saying that time haven't been fulfilled yet. Okay, y'all, check this out. It's impossible for anybody to die and go see Christ in the heavenly realm if things haven't been fulfilled, because everybody would still be in Sheol waiting. That's the main point right there. That's the biggest issue. It's impossible for them to go see their loved ones in heavens, and for them to see the mansions and the constructs and the buildings and the military and all that stuff. It's impossible for them to see all this stuff if everything haven't been fulfilled, because everybody will still be in Sheol. Death had not been fulfilled, because according to Revelation, death was defeated in the book of Revelation, which is the end. So death could not have been defeated yet. So everybody should still be in a dead state, just chilling and waiting. But y'all, I will be right back. Duty calls first. I will be right back. Sorry, y'all. And the crazy part of it is that you got people, right? I was in the chat room this morning, this AM, and you had people in there trying to talk about how Christ don't exist and all that stuff. And then we had a brother who don't believe in Christ. And what he brought up was, well, if Christ existed, why come he told his disciples he was coming his generation? He literally told them he was coming his generation. So y'all believing on a person that lied because he didn't come his generation. And what I did first of all, I like to think, I was pleased to see that some people can read the Bible in context. So that was great. But he was trying to misuse the context, because the context say what it says. Christ told his disciples he was going to come their generation for his second return. But the context that he got off with, he trying to say that Christ didn't return. Why? Because I'm pretty sure he has a mental a picture on how he thinks, or how he thought it should have been when Christ returned. And since it didn't end up the way that he thought in 2019, then it didn't happen. Now, you got to ask yourself a question. Let's go back to the first century, when the New Testament was about, the first century period. Okay, if you are being thrown in prison, away from your families, if you are being killed, if you are being tortured just because you believe a person, think about it, y'all. This was because they believed a person. They wasn't doing nothing wrong. I mean, they was being tortured by the Romans because of what Nero did. They was being tortured by the Jews. So Christians were being tortured both ways just because they believed on Christ. So picture this. You in the first century being tortured, and then you have a message that says, victory is coming. You will be avenged. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. I'll see you tomorrow. Yes, sir. You will be avenged. You will be freed. You will be able to go and teach the gospel to whoever you want to without worrying about being persecuted. You guys in the first century that's going through this, not the people that comes 100 years, 200 years later, but the people in the first century. Okay. So they are given this promise through all of that persecution and all the stuff that's happening to them. So then you have the Roman army come in and kill a majority of the Jewish sect that was persecuting you and killing you. And then you see a lot more go into slavery, into bondage from the Roman army. And during the siege, you have a general coming, right? And you're caught in there. You being a Christian, you're caught in there with the Torah only people. It's around a feast day. You don't know if you need to be doing these feasts or not. You just know that it was told that you was going to be free. And then you hear and you see the Roman army coming to siege Jerusalem. You know what this means. A lot of people's going to die. You're seeing people die. And inside of Jerusalem, now the zealots or the other Israelites inside of Jerusalem, they just start killing each other, start raping and etc. to each other. So you got that going on the inside of Jerusalem. On the outside, you got the Roman army got you encamped and encompassed. And then suddenly, the Roman army stops and turns around. Then you get to run with your family and your friends, all that believe the same thing. You get to run into the mountains. And by the time you get into the mountains, the Roman army comes back and destroys Jerusalem. So all of that goes on. And when you're done seeing all of that, and now you can live, you get to go teach Christ, you get to go tell everybody what Christ said actually happened, and you're happy that you're actually following the right person and all that stuff because you have the works. So you go through all of that good stuff, right? You're free now. Would you go then and tell people that Christ didn't return because you did not see him physically? Now, the whole time, Christ has been saying that he's going to return when Jerusalem was destroyed, and he's going to punish all of those wicked men that have been punishing his people. So his return is going to be at the same time that the Roman army came. His actions was going to be the same actions of the Roman army. Hopefully y'all understand what Christ's return was. But would you then go, after all of the things happen, and say, well, Christ is going to return in the future, and he's going to free us in the future because he haven't returned yet. He haven't set the captives free yet. We still out here. We're free. You know. He talked to us personally. The people that was being martyred is us, literally right here. Us first century Christians. So we're free. Oh yeah, everything is free. We good. But Christ haven't returned yet because I didn't see him personally. Do you think that is the gospel that they was teaching? Do you think that's what they was teaching? Do you think just because they was out there probably celebrating and crying, happy tears, they probably was hurt from all of the carnage that happened to them, so they probably still felt pain? Would you say, do you think they was like, well, I still feel pain, so the kingdom of heaven can't be here. The new covenant can't be here. Christ couldn't have returned because I didn't see him. Look, ouch, that hurt. I still feel pain. Let me cry. I still can cry. He said there's going to be no more tears, no more pain, no more sorrow. That's what he said. So obviously he couldn't have returned because I can do all of the stuff he said I couldn't do. Do you think that's the message that they had after they was freed from persecution? After they seen the people, they saw people dying on the Roman side, they saw people dying on Israel's side. The Romans and the Israel was the one persecuting them, so they saw that these wicked people were being destroyed and etc. So do you think they came back with that gospel, with that doctrine, oh, he ain't returned yet because I ain't see him? Of course not. Of course not. Because this is more of a Western mind thinking. This is not their thinking. This is our thinking. Want everything literal. Because you didn't see him. Because it wasn't written down in history that somebody literally saw him. Then he didn't come. Not understanding that he was talking about his presence. His words is him coming. He's a man of action. Not him physically. When the Father came on earth, and that's why we have the Old Testament to look for, to look to. When the Father came on earth, all those times, from in Isaiah 49, 2 Samuel 22, Jeremiah, is it 4, I think? When the Father came on earth, nobody saw him. They just felt, They just felt him. They felt the things that he did. That's all. That's all. They didn't see him or nothing. But now in 2019, people want to visually see something. They got to be all up in it. They want to see it for it to be real. It ain't real if they can't see it. So that's the problem that we have today. And I call it absolutism and literalism because that's what people want. They want things absolute and literal. 100%. They ain't happy with 50%. They ain't happy with 40. They ain't happy with 99. They want 100% because that's how they've been raised in our world. The Israelites wasn't raised, sorry y'all, trying to get this stuff together. But the Israelites wasn't raised in our world. They wasn't trying to have our way of thinking. And like I said, I don't know if I'm breaking up. Hopefully this whole video is available and standing tall. But that's pretty much all I got to say. But there's a problem with the doctrine versus reality, because in reality, the Bible itself is a lot of poetic language, a lot of hyperboles, a lot of personification, a lot of Hebraic literature from their exaggerated, some exaggerated, some not all the way absolute. You know, I'm just saying the same things over, but it's a lot of factual information given a extra characteristics in order to appease the mind of the readers, in order to keep their attention, in order to entertainment. Just like we have movies now, they had literature, entertainment. Okay, some exaggeration. That's why the people who go into history, who were like, man, let me prove all this stuff is fake. Look, it said that over 100,000 was killed here, but in history, it don't even got nobody being killed. So what that mean? You see how that's wrong? See, they lied to you. No, this is literature, okay? They make up the story how they want to go. They use factual evidence, and in order to entertain the people, in order to appease the Israelites that's reading it, in order to keep their attention, they add and subtract whatever they want to add and subtract. But it's not lying, it's just their genre. It's how they did their literature. The people who want to take it and make it all literal are the people that's in error. They did not take it to be all literal. They knew that some of it was added on, but it gave them hope. And then once you go into the New Testament, Christ, he actually tried to clear up a lot of that. He tried to clear up a lot of it. But even that, you got to understand, the Greek had their own literature and writing style and similar poetic language. Or the Aramaics, then over to the Greeks. So, you got to take it how it is. Some things are more literal. Some things are allegories, some things are idioms, metaphors, but they're all based off of factual evidence. And the point is to get you to understand that the Most High, through the sacrifice of his Son, he has purged our conscience, making us be able to have his true law, which is Christ, written on our hearts and our minds. And if everybody conduct themselves in love, this planet would flourish. If you love yourself, if you love your neighbors, if you love your enemies, if you love the animals, if you love the environment, if you display love, this whole world would flourish. Throughout the whole Bible, the problems was idolatry and lack of love for your neighbors. Throughout the whole Bible, that was the problem. Idolatry and the lack of love for your neighbors. If we get that out the way, we can enjoy this new covenant as a whole. But I am done with what I got to say. Hopefully, we can hear all this. But love you all. YouTube channel, AOSD-Shantler, Assembly of Sound Doctrine Chandler. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all later. Shalom.